right, so we are going to go over the last method of solving a system, which actually is my favorite. And really it has to do with a couple things. First of all, you have to have your variables lined up. Basically, sort of like in standard form, where you're going to have your x's and y's lined up on one side and your constant on another. And if you have that, your job after that is to look for opposite coefficients. And once you get that, what you're going to do is you are going to add the system up, and it's going to cancel out one of the variables, and then you'll be able to solve for one. So let's go through the steps here. There's 6 steps. So instead of talking about all of them, let's just start doing them, all right? So step 1, we're going to do example 1 now. So step 1 is going to make sure that the variables are lined up. So we have the x's and the y's lined up. We're going to look to see if we have opposite coefficients, and we do. So we have 2 and -2 as the y coefficient. All right? So let's go to step 3 now, and we're going to add. Kind of like you added when you're in 2nd grade, right? Just adding up and down. And the reason we're looking for opposite coefficients is the 2's are going to cancel, okay? So your job then is just to go ahead and solve for the remaining variables, which in this case will be x. So we're going to have 3x plus x, which is going to be 4x, okay? And that is going to equal -22. And -2 would be -24. All right. Now that, guys, is a piece of cake, right? So we're going to divide by 4. And x is going to become -6. All right, now remember, I want these in an ordered pair. So you have your x value here as your ordered pair. And I'm going to go back. Now we're on step 5. I'm going to substitute it into one of the equations. Well, which one would make sense? Probably the first one. And it's very similar to substitution, which we did a while ago. Okay, so I'm going to take the -6 and I'm going to plug it into the first equation here, okay? So I'm going to take the x, so it's going to be -6 plus 2y equals -2. Okay, fairly simple problem to solve now. Isolate the y. Let's get to it. I'm going to add 6, right? So that cancels. I've got 2y equals -2 plus 6 is a +4, right? Now, divide out the 2. And y equals 2. So let's put that in there. And we're done. Okay? And of course, if you wanted to check it, you're just going to plug it back into the original equation. All right, let's try the next one, all right? So you'll notice in the next one, we have the variables lined up, step 1. Step 2, we're going to see we have opposite coefficients. Oh, we do. We have the x's this time, not the y's, okay? So, again, we're going to go ahead and add it up and down. Now the x's will cancel. Then we're just going to finish out the problem, right? So +9, -6y6, that's 3, right? 3y equals -4 plus 1 is -3. Divide out the 3, and y equals -1. Now remember, ordered pair. Just don't make the common mistake. You actually have the y value now, okay? So let's just put it in its proper place. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and substitute it. I'll put it into the first problem again. So I'm going to take my -1, right? And I'm going to plug it into the top problem. You can plug it into any problem you want, the top or the bottom, whichever you seem would be easier for you to solve. And I'm just going to go for this one. So it's going to be x plus 9 times -1 equals -4. Okay. All right. So -9 would, right. I'm going to add it to 4. And x is going to be what, 5? All right. And again, we want that in an ordered pair, right? Okay. That's all there is to it. Now, let's take a look at the next one. Okay. So you'll notice in the next one, I do not have negative, I'm sorry, the terms are lined up, but I don't have opposites, okay? However, we can solve that pretty simple just by, if you look at step 2, we're going to have to multiply one of the equations to get opposites, all right? So since we both have 2's, we're going to have to make one of them negative. Doesn't matter which one again. I'll make the top one negative. So I'm going to multiply everything by -1, okay? Which will make my x value 2x, right? -1 times +2y would be -2y equals -1 would be 20, right? And then you'll just take the second one, right? Line it up, because we're not going to do anything with that one, because we have opposite coefficients. And then we're going to do the same thing we did like we did in problem 1 and 2. We're going to add the system up, right? Which in this case is going to cancel out the y's, okay? So we'll have what? 2x minus x is just going to be x. Okay. And then 20 minus -5 would just be 5. All right. So again, ordered pair. I have my x values 5. Now you can plug it into any one you want. Top one, bottom one. I'm going to choose the bottom one this time. This looks a little more simpler to solve probably. All right, so I'm going to plug an x into the bottom one. Now remember, x, according to the problem, has to be negative, right? So it's -5 plus 2y equals -15. And then, solving that simple problem, I'm going to add 5 to both sides. Okay. So then I'm going to get 2y equals, what is that, -10. And divide by 2. And I get what? Y equals -5, right? Plug it into the ordered pair. Done. Okay. So did the first 3. Now, number 4 is very similar to number 3. So if you want to stop the video, try number 4. Because that's what I'm going to do in the class in a second. They're going to try number 4. Okay. All right. So let's look at number 4. Again, you have the variables all lined up, right? I got the x's and the y's lined up. Okay. You'll notice that I could cancel out the x's or the y's, right? By multiplying by a negative. So if I do the top one, okay, by a negative, so you got negative 5x, right? Positive 7y, negative 21. Then I'm just going to rewrite the second one. I don't know if you see something, but I see something a little funny. All right, so we're going to add it, right? Uh-oh, what happens? X's go bye-bye, and so do the y's. So if you look at our left-hand side, if they both cancel out, I have nothing, which would be 0, right? So I have 0 equals, well, what's that? Negative 21, and that was a 29. So I believe that would be 8, right? Now this should look familiar to you, right? Variables canceled out. And the final equation does not make sense. So, guess what? No sense, no solution. Okay? No solution. You don't have an ordered pair, which basically means that any number you plug in would not meet the qualifications, or if you graph this, remember, if you graph this, these would be parallel lines. They would never touch, okay? All right, so I'm going to stop the video now, and we're going to do the back part of the worksheet in a second. Okay, there's a couple of different, more challenging problems. And then we'll be done with the elimination method, okay?